Judy, thank you so much for coming on board the Transatlantic. I mean, it's like this is an honor for me. I've been chasing you for quite a while, and I'm so happy to have you here and on Transatlantic. Thank you so much, Judy.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I was, I've been watching some of your interviews, and your questions are unlike anything I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you. Thank
So
you.
I'm excited to be doing this.
Such a pleasure to hear this. So look, we believe that each of us is an ocean of erratic thoughts. And the reason why I wanted to have you on Transatlantic is because I'm convinced that your ocean is beautiful and fascinating, and we couldn't miss it. We had to cross it. So what's gonna happen? We're gonna go through the 7 questions, like the 7 C's, and hopefully I'm gonna cover a side of you that many don't know. Okay, so let's start with the very first question. There are an estimated like 3 million shipwrecks at the bottom of the ocean, and only 1% of them has been discovered. In 1985, a treasure hunter found the wreck of Nuestra Senora de Atocha, and the treasure was amazing. They found emerald, lingots, gold coin, amazing treasure. Now, bringing this fact into the creative industry, the advertising business, part of our job as a creative is to dive deep and find the treasure in us. What treasure did you find at the bottom of your ocean?
Well, I think that we're always trying to figure out what is at the bottom of our ocean. It's a lifelong journey.
Mhm.
And it's really about your purpose. Like we talk about purpose for the brands that we work on and for companies. And I think that very few of us know what our own purpose is. And I actually thought about it during lockdown because you get to spend a lot of time in
Mhm.
your own head. And I would say that my purpose is to see potential in people and ideas. Like I have an optimism for things, um, and the possibility that I don't see in myself, but I could see it for other people, and I could see it for companies and brands. Like I get very excited, but for myself, I'm always asking people, what should I do? Like, well, what's next?
This is a great trait of a great creative director, though. I mean, it's like optimism. I love it. It's a great
Yeah.
ingredient to life, and I think it's like it's so essential right now. We have been going through this hard time, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think optimism is underrated because you, as human beings, we're attracted to optimism, people who are optimistic. And often creatives are, a little more pessimistic, I would
Mhm.
say. And so that optimism is something that's really contagious.
Definitely, definitely. Second question. Anna Ivanova was a Soviet merchant marine sailor who became the very first woman in the world to serve as a captain of an ocean crossing liner. She published a book entitled On the Seas and Beyond the Seas, filled with inspirational stories about her journey. You were the driving force in a male-dominant world of one of the most historic and creative campaign of all time, Like a Girl. You were the captain of a ship that cut through a male-dominant world, and to use one of the quotes from one of my favorite poets, Eliot's, you disturbed the universe. What did you learn from that experience?
I I learned the power of an idea. Like we talk about ideas all the time and how powerful they are, but often they live in a smaller microcosm. And that was the first like taste of the power of an idea to spread throughout the world and over time. Like just last week, an old client of mine texted me an article he read, and I haven't worked with him for 3 years, and he said, hey, I just saw this article. It's about a female football player who made history by becoming the first woman to play Power Five football in America. And on the back of her helmet was play like a girl, and there's a picture of it. And that warms my heart that an idea can travel around the world, but also over time. And that's the power that we have. And that's something that I learned. And also ideas that are so personal and meaningful to you. Um, you can bring those things forward because you feel really touched by them. And I was a middle child, so as a girl, I had two older brothers. I'm always underestimated, made fun of. You have to fight for your things. And then now I have a daughter, and I want her to have the opportunity. So those things are very personal and makes the idea that much more special to me.
So, you talk about like creative idea that travel around the world, they spill onto society. And I know that we've been complaining so much about like, our jobs, but it's true. Like, we're very lucky because when we create this powerful idea, to see them traveling through the world and like,
Yes,
get an effect like so many people out there, man, it's rewarding at the very least, and it truly like make up for all the frustration and like the bad days that we have in advertising.
exactly. Right. And it becomes addictive too because you
It
want
is.
to do more that impacts and influences the world.
It is. Good, man. I love it. Look, third question. Liquid water enters the ocean through rain, rivers, and melting ice. Water vapor evaporates from the ocean into the atmosphere and create clouds. Every year, 300,000 cubic kilometers of water evaporates into the atmosphere. Much falls back into the ocean, but a third of it condenses and falls onto the land as rain. This is called the cycle of life, and it works 24/7. It helps things in balance. Now, we as a human can learn from it, right? Like, because we as a human needs habits, needs a cycle. Now, how does one of the best creative in the advertising industry keep things in balance?
Well, balance is always so hard to accomplish, but I love the circle of life metaphor. I think it's good input is good output, right? So you're always feeding yourself and feeling your brains. And I like to know, I'm just generally a curious person. I like to know how things work or why things work or why people do things. And I think that that's something that really fuels me. But I also say that having a sense of humor is so important because you can have a bad day and get really down. But it's having that perspective of, hey man, I'm not a surgeon. Like I'm doing the best that I can, and having fun and loving what I do is what keeps me doing it. Otherwise, I should be doing something else.
That's a great answer. I love it. I really love it. Fourth question. The first four lines of a poem written by Nathaniel Hawthorne reads, "The ocean as its silent caves, deep, quiet, and alone. Though there be fury on the waves, beneath them there is none." Now, you are the global chief creative officer of a company that has many offices around the world. I think like almost like 60 offices around the world. And on top of that, you sit on the board of One Club for Creativity, Ad Council Creative, Get Carter Film Advisory, and go on. I mean, like your day must be so busy and noisy and loud, right? But is there a cave somewhere inside Judy John where you retreat and you listen to your own thoughts?
Well, it's less of an internal cave and more of a physical cave, I would say. I would say I'm a champion sleeper, so my bed is my cave. And even if I'm traveling, I go back to my room and will just lay in bed and watch Netflix or Prime or something just to block it out or just to escape. Um, or you could always go to a gallery and listen to a good playlist. That
But
always works too.
the power of sleep is a very it's a very intimate power, and it's so underestimated. I mean, it's like, you know, I'm not a big sleeper. Unfortunately, I can't sleep longer than like 5 or 6 hours a night. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right?
Oh,
But
I'm sleeping 10 hours.
oh, dude, like I haven't slept like 10 hours since I was a baby. I don't even remember last time I did it. But anyway, but I do remember like that kind of art installation that Andy Warhol did back in the day about like recording and filming himself sleeping for 8 hours.
Right.
And it truly, like, every time my mind goes there, like I really feel that the sleep itself is such like a fertile territory for a creative to recharge the battery. So thank you for your answer. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fifth question. Now, if you Google, like, why do we have oceans, right? In 67 seconds, you obtain roughly 1.5 billion results. We humans are defined by questions. There is no progress without question marks. Question marks are sailors that are sent, through other words, to fight a fight with the unknown, right? Tomorrow, a girl will begin a journey in advertising. What's the most important question she should ask?
Well, other than the question, why are you getting into advertising? Um, that would be my first question. But I normally ask people, like, what do you bring? Like, if you join my department or join my company, what do you bring? What makes you different? What are you going to bring that's different than anyone else? And I think that that's really important to understand for yourself, what
That,
your power is.
that's a great advice. You know, like normally when I mentor students back in Europe, and the mindset to Europe is so different from the mindset like in America. One of the biggest struggles for them is truly to find like a sense of identification, but also to know what they're good at, right?
Yes,
And I think
right.
that's to know what you're good at, and to capitalize on that is truly like the very first like big step you can take. And
Right.
so your answer is a precious advice that I would like, you know, people in Europe and like young girls and like young kids starting advertising to literally like capture and like, you know, take them with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I think often people take what they're good at for granted. So they
Yeah,
don't even think that's special, but it is.
yeah. That's a true observation. Okay, I can almost see the shore. Sixth question. Ocean liners, ocean liners were a byword for luxury and glamour, Hollywood's golden age. Now, from the 1920s, I think roughly to 1960, those floating temples of style were paradigm of like, you know, luxurious life, elegant design, but the golden age came to an end. So there is no more like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers sailing from New York to Paris. There is no more Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell. In a certain way, if you think about it, like advertising industry has gone through the same. There was what we call like a golden age, and now it's gone, and something has been like, you know, taking their place. Now, my question for you is, do you think that there might be another golden age waiting for us for the advertising, or it's gonna be a completely different timeline and like, you know, landscape?
I think there'll never be another golden age. It'll be something else, and so it should be. You know, you can never go back, and nor do I ever want to go back. You know, it's always just going forward, and so it'll be something new and hopefully something better. You know, I would argue right now is the most interesting time to be in advertising, like to just to work across technologies and platforms and you know, social. It's complex, but it's never boring. It's so interesting, and so there'll be there'll be many golden
I'm
ages.
I'm so with you on this, and I do think that, you know, the pessimist that is running through this period of time in advertising has to be replaced with this kind of optimism, because I do believe that there is no best time to be in advertising than now. we have so
Yes.
much freedom to reinvent ourselves, like, to do whatever we want. Even as a creative, there is less constraints. So it's something that we really should like capitalize and think about it, because it's a great thing. It's great.
Right. And that's creativity. Whenever there's a roadblock, you have to figure out a way around it. And that's where the fun is, right? It's like, how am I going to get around this, or how am I going to do this differently? And it's always changing, and that's why I love it.
Thank you. Hey, this is the last question, and it's a question that we ask to all our guests. If there was a wind that blow your sails, what the name would be?
It would be a good human being.
That's
And
awesome.
it's funny, when I used to do my self-evaluations for work, they always say, what do you want to accomplish next year? I always wrote, be a better human being than I was the year before. And I always imagine my manager, whoever was reading it, looking at it and going, what the hell is this? Like, isn't it winning awards? Isn't it growing business? And it's like, no.
That's awesome. Hey, Judy, like, thank you so much. I know that's like to find even an hour in your schedule, it was like difficult, but I appreciate so much you coming on Transatlantic and let me cross your ocean. And I gotta say, you didn't disappoint. Your ocean is beautiful and fascinating, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. This was a pleasure to do, and super fun and interesting, and I love doing it. So thank you for having me and thinking of me.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.